number of years ago, there was a movie called Dead Man Walking. And it was the story of a religious sister by the name of Sister Helen Prejean. She was portrayed by Susan Sarandon, who won an Academy Award for her performance. And the story centered around a time in Sister Helen's life when she was sort of a spiritual guide or chaplain in a Louisiana state prison on death row. And the story follows her relationship with one of the inmates on that death row, walking with him ultimately to his execution and death. And during the story, we find out that Sister Helen struggled with her own inner doubts of whether her ministry was really purposeful, helpful. She struggled with the reality of the victims' relatives and parents being enraged with her because of the work she was doing with this man who was a murderer. And one of the final scenes in the movie comes after the man is put to death and his funeral takes place. Sister Helen is walking out of the church, and one of the fathers of the victims says to her, "I wish I had your faith." And Sister Helen, without even thinking, responds instantly, "It's not faith. It's not that easy. It's work." I was thinking of that particular example and story today. It's not that I'm discounting or that Sister Helen discounted faith. It's very important to us, and we've understood that in our journey of Lent so far. But I think we also have to understand that faith is not by itself. It's the sort of the garden, you might say. It's the soil in which the seed of God's presence is planted in our life. It was the place where God planted the covenant with Israel that we heard about in the first reading. It's the reality of Jesus' journey of life and his relationship with the Father that we hear about in the gospel. But in each instance, it's not faith that carries the people through. Whether it's the Israelites or Jesus, it's their work. It's how they live their life. The Israelites over and over again struggled with the covenant, and God kept coming back and asking them to work at it, renewing that covenant within them. Jesus had to work at his life. It wasn't easy. As he says in the gospel today, what do you want me to do? Ask God to take this away from me? No, I'm here for a purpose. And we're going to find out about that purpose beginning next Sunday as we enter the holiest week of our faith, and we tell this story over and over again about Jesus' passion, death, and resurrection. But today, as we continue our journey of Lent, we're asked to reflect on our own life, on our own relationship with God. Are we working at it? There was a woman working in her garden one day, and a passerby came, and he looked, and the flowers were beautiful. And he said to her, do you like it? They look beautiful. And she wiped the sweat from her brow with her dirty hand and said, "I like it when it blooms." And the passerby thought, but she's put a lot of work into it. She's tilled the soil, she's planted, she's replanted, she's watered. She's let it be dormant at those times when it can't grow so that it can grow. Easter is our bloom, and we're journeying toward that, but we have to do our work.